After years of playing tabletop RPGs, these are the 5 games that I genuinely keep coming back to. Not because they're perfect. Honestly, some of them are kind of a mess. But every one of these games has created epic, memorable moments at the table. This isn't a ranked list. These are just 5 RPGs that create nights that my players keep talking about years later. Some are wonderfully complicated, others chaotic, and still others beautifully simple. But all of them understand something really important. Momentum and tension matter more than perfection. To me, AD&D 1st and 2nd edition is basically BXD&D, but with a lot of house rules, strange appendices, and fantasy weirdness all piled on top. The core DNA of even White Box is still there. Same danger, same assumption, same old school engine. But AD&D adds all of this bizarre texture around the edges, like weapon speed factors and tiny little rules stuffed all over the place in the books. And honestly, both 1st and 2nd edition are kind of messy. But somehow, that messiness gives AD&D a personality. I remember one of my first AD&D lessons was that trolls only die by fire and beheading and whatnot. And that was only after killing it 4 or 5 times. Where AD&D shines, especially 2nd edition, is in their settings, like Ravenloft, Dark Sun, and Spelljammer. AD&D feels less like a polished rule set and more like a toolbox full of fantasy deranged weirdness. And I love it for that. Half the fun is rediscovering some bizarre rule that you forgot existed, like rate of fire for missile weapons. But BXD&D almost completely strips all of that away. BXD&D feels like the raw engine of AD&D. You can feel how close the games are mechanically. But BXD&D is cleaner, faster, and more accessible to new players, but still hold up for older players, which is why the OSR is replete with BX clones. Old School Essentials takes that BX engine and completely cleans it up so that you can find rules very quickly. It has one of the cleanest layouts that has ever been put to paper for an RPG, and has inspired games like Shadowdark. Everything moves. Characters are quick to make. Rulings are intuitive. And really, the game just gets out of the way. And then Dolmenwood wraps that all nicely into a wonderful, nightmarish fairy tale package. I remember doing a one-shot for 2 of my players when the other players couldn't make it. And we played in Old School Essentials Dolmenwood, and we played the adventure Winter's Daughter. Great adventure. They get into one of the first rooms inside of the dungeon, that room where everything's flying around like a tome and a candlestick and all of that. And then the first level wizard gets smacked upside of the head with the tome. The player ended up having to play one of the henchmen for the rest of the evening. Oh, those glass cannons. Am I right? BX reminds me that you don't need a mountain of rules to have awesome adventures. Now, the next game on my list is an opposite kind of energy. EZD6 should not work as well as it does. Everything moves fast. Character creation, combat, and pure chaos. I've never seen my table explode with excitement like I did with an EZD6 boss fight in my own homebrew world and campaign setting, the Sawin campaign. By the way, sign up for the Sawin newsletter below. Go down in the dungeon. Do it right now. The underdog wizard just kept critting and confirming until the pumpkin monstrosity that they were fighting was totally and completely detonated. At some point, I realized that I didn't want to play RPGs that felt like homework. Sometimes you just want to sit down and start having fun. EZD6 understands that better than a lot of games. Now, if EZD6 is pure momentum, Deadlands is pure atmosphere. Deadlands feels like a ghost story told at a gambling table. Everything about this game drips atmosphere. The playing card initiative, the reroll poker chip tokens, the exploding dice, the setting. Oh, the setting! This version of Deadlands Reloaded, just had this raw, Weird West energy that completely pulled me in. The mechanics feel like the setting. I remember playing Deadlands with my kids when they were a lot younger, and I had explained this really creepy atmosphere. It got so intense, especially when I introduced the scarecrow monster, that they actually started crying. Yeah, bad dad moment, but they still talk about it to this day. They did kill the scarecrow monster, by the way. Thank the gods for those re-roll poker chips, also known as bennies. Very few RPGs commit to tone this hard. Deadlands Reloaded understands that mechanics are not just rules. They're part of the experience. And finally, the RPG that captures cinematic adventure probably better than most. Star Wars: The Role-Playing Game by West End Games, 1987. This game just nails the original Star Wars trilogy. Modern games can often overcomplicate cinematic storytelling. This setting throws you directly in a setting that you know. Obviously, because there's 3 amazing movies that are attached to it, so it's easy for players to understand. The game itself taps into that cinematic language. I once ran a campaign where the player basically went through Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi as the Jedi hero. He defeated Vader, survived the Emperor, and somehow commandeered a super Star Destroyer. It was epic. This game understands that momentum is better than rules perfection. The older I get, the less I care about perfect balance and flawless mechanics. The games I come back to are the ones that create lasting stories that the players talk about years later. Epic moments, real panic, laughter, disaster, victory, and these 5 games constantly create that. And honestly, I think that matters more than perfect game design. What games are part of your personal list? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know down in the comments. I'd like to thank my Patreon members for making this video possible. Without you, this does not happen, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Alright everyone, thanks for stopping by Agranak Studios today, and we'll see you on the next one. Later!